You walk into a crowded room, dozens of faces, and yet somehow, your eyes land on one person. Your heart rate ticks up, your palms get slightly damp. Something just happened, but you have no idea what. You didn't choose this. You didn't think about it. Your brain just decided. And now you're in trouble. Here's the thing that might unsettle you. That feeling you call chemistry, that spark you're convinced is some mystical cosmic connection, it's actually a highly calculated process happening in your brain at lightning speed. Your crush isn't random. It's not fate. It's your brain running an ancient algorithm, processing dozens of signals in milliseconds, and arriving at a verdict before you even have time to notice what color their eyes are. And the craziest part? You don't get a vote. Your conscious mind, the part of you that makes lists about what you want in a partner, the part that swears you'll never date another emotionally unavailable person, that part is basically just a passenger. Your unconscious brain is doing the driving, and it has very specific criteria that you've never been told about. So let's crack open the hood and look at what's really happening when your brain picks your crush, because once you understand this, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. The moment attraction hits, your brain lights up like a slot machine that just hit the jackpot. Neuroscientist Helen Fisher led a groundbreaking study where she put people who'd just fallen in love into brain scanners. What she found was startling. When participants looked at photos of their crush, a specific region deep in the brain called the ventral tegmental area went into overdrive. This tiny structure is part of your brain's reward system, the same circuitry that activates when you eat chocolate, win money, or experience other intense pleasures. The ventral tegmental area starts pumping out dopamine, the neurotransmitter that makes you feel motivated, focused, and alive. This is why a new crush feels like you've suddenly woken up. Colors seem brighter, music sounds better, your energy spikes. You're not imagining this. Your brain is literally flooding itself with feel-good chemicals because it's decided this person is a reward worth pursuing. But dopamine isn't working alone. Another chemical called norepinephrine joins the party. This one is responsible for that heart-pounding, can't sit still, constantly checking your phone energy. Norepinephrine increases alertness and attention. It's why you can remember exactly what your crush was wearing 3 weeks ago, but forget where you put your keys this morning. Your brain has literally reprioritized what information matters. And here's where it gets really interesting. While dopamine and norepinephrine are spiking, another neurotransmitter is doing the opposite. Serotonin, the chemical that helps regulate mood and keeps you feeling calm and balanced, actually drops when you're infatuated with someone. Researchers have found that serotonin levels in newly love-struck people resemble levels found in people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. That's not a metaphor. That's actual brain chemistry. This explains why you can't stop thinking about them, why you replay conversations in your head, why you analyze their text messages like you're decoding ancient hieroglyphics. Your brain has entered an obsessive state because serotonin, the chemical that would normally put the brakes on repetitive thoughts, has taken a back seat. So when you're lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering what they meant when they said, "See you around," you're not being dramatic. You're experiencing a legitimate neurochemical event. Your brain is chemically primed for obsession. There's also another brain region worth mentioning, the amygdala. This is the part of your brain that processes fear and anxiety. Interestingly, researchers have found that when people are deeply in love, activity in the amygdala actually decreases. Your brain is essentially turning down your threat detection system. This might explain why people in the throes of infatuation often overlook red flags or make decisions they wouldn't normally make. Your brain is so focused on the reward that it's literally suppressing the circuits that would normally say, "Wait, think about this." Neuroscientist Helen Fisher has described 3 distinct brain systems related to love, lust, attraction, and attachment. Each involves different neurochemicals. Lust is driven primarily by testosterone and estrogen. It's about sexual desire, broadly speaking. Attraction is the stage we're talking about here, powered by dopamine and norepinephrine. And attachment, the longer-term bonding that develops in committed relationships, involves oxytocin and vasopressin. These systems can operate independently. You can feel lust for one person, attraction to another, and attachment to someone else entirely. Your brain doesn't require these feelings to align, which explains a lot about human relationship complications. But your brain doesn't just flip on this chemical cascade for anyone who walks by. There's a filtering system running constantly in the background, and it's evaluating potential partners based on criteria that are both ancient and surprisingly specific. Researchers have identified 5 key factors that influence who you're attracted to: physical appearance, proximity, similarity, reciprocity, and familiarity. Let's break these down because they're not as straightforward as they sound. Physical attraction seems obvious, right? You see someone, you find them attractive, end of story. But your brain is doing much more than just appreciating a nice face. Studies have shown that we're drawn to certain facial features because they signal genetic health. At least, that's what our ancient programming believes. Facial symmetry is one of the most studied aspects of attractiveness. Research published in journals spanning decades has shown that more symmetrical faces tend to be rated as more attractive across cultures. The theory is that symmetry signals developmental stability, the ability to grow properly despite environmental stresses. It's your brain's shortcut for assessing genetic quality. But here's where researchers have found something more complicated. While symmetry does seem to play a role, it's not the whole story. Some large-scale studies have found no correlation between symmetry and attractiveness, suggesting our perception of beauty involves multiple factors working together. Averageness, having features that represent the mathematical average of a population, also plays a role, as does sexual dimorphism, meaning features that are distinctly masculine or feminine. Your brain is running these calculations in milliseconds. When you feel that instant spark of attraction, you're experiencing the result of rapid-fire neural processing that evolved over millions of years. Then there's similarity. Research consistently shows that we're more likely to be attracted to people who share our interests, backgrounds, and even physical characteristics. This goes deeper than just liking the same movies. Studies have found that people are even more attracted to others who share similarities in things like their names, birthdays, or physical appearance, a phenomenon researchers call implicit egotism. We're drawn to reflections of ourselves, perhaps because similarity signals predictability and safety. Reciprocity is another powerful factor. When you find out someone likes you, your brain often becomes more interested in them. This isn't just ego, it's a rational response. Someone who's already expressed interest is a lower-risk prospect. Your brain calculates that pursuing someone who might reciprocate is a better use of energy than chasing someone indifferent. This is why finding out about a crush's interest can sometimes create attraction where there wasn't any before. But attraction isn't just about what you see. Your brain is gathering data from senses you're barely aware of. One of the most fascinating experiments in attraction research is known as the sweaty t-shirt study. Back in 1995, a researcher named Klaus Wedekind had men wear the same t-shirt for 2 days straight. No deodorant, no cologne, just their natural scent. Then women came in and smelled these shirts, rating which ones they found most attractive. The results were remarkable. Women consistently preferred the scent of men whose immune systems were most different from their own. Specifically, they were drawn to men with different MHC genes, major histocompatibility complex genes, that play a crucial role in immune function. Why would this matter? When two people with different MHC genes have children, those children inherit a more diverse immune system. They're better equipped to fight off a wider range of diseases. Your nose, without you knowing it, is helping you select partners who would give your potential offspring the best chance of survival. Women in the study even said certain t-shirts reminded them of current or ex-boyfriends. Meanwhile, t-shirts from men with similar immune systems smelled like a brother or father to them. Your brain is literally categorizing people's scents based on genetic compatibility. Here's an unsettling twist. Women who were on hormonal birth control showed the opposite preference. They were attracted to men with similar immune systems. Some researchers have speculated this could contribute to relationship problems when women go off birth control and suddenly perceive their partner's scent differently. The science on this is still debated, but it raises interesting questions about how much our biology influences attraction in ways we never consider. Voice plays a role too. Studies have shown that women often find deeper male voices attractive, and there's a biological reason for this. Voice pitch correlates with testosterone levels. Men with more testosterone tend to have deeper voices. Research has found that we perceive people with certain vocal qualities as more dominant, confident, and attractive. But attraction gets really interesting when we move from biology to psychology specifically, to the patterns you learned before you could even speak. There's a theory in psychology called imago theory, developed by Dr. Harville Hendrix. It suggests something that might make you uncomfortable. You're unconsciously attracted to partners who have both the positive and negative traits of your primary caregivers. This doesn't mean you want to date your parents. It means your brain formed a template for love based on your earliest experiences, and it's constantly searching for matches to that template. If your mother was warm but emotionally unavailable at times, you might find yourself drawn to partners who show affection but pull away, not because you enjoy the pain, but because that push-pull dynamic feels like home to your unconscious mind. According to imago theory, this isn't a design flaw. It's actually an attempt at healing. Your brain brings you to partners who trigger your old wounds because it's trying to create an opportunity to finally resolve them. The catch is that you're often attracted to someone who is unqualified to give you a different outcome, someone who might recreate the original dynamic rather than heal it. This is why people often say they keep dating the same person over and over, just with a different face. There's a reason for that pattern. Your unconscious has a type, and that type was formed long before you ever went on a first date. The attachment style you developed in childhood also shapes who you're attracted to and how you behave in relationships. People with secure attachment tend to feel comfortable with intimacy and independence. Those with anxious attachment often crave closeness and worry about abandonment. Those with avoidant attachment tend to value independence and feel uncomfortable with too much emotional intimacy. Research suggests that people with different attachment styles are often drawn to each other in ways that can create difficult dynamics. An anxiously attached person might find an avoidant person's independence intriguing, while the avoidant person might appreciate the anxious person's emotional expressiveness, at least initially. The tension between these styles can fuel attraction even as it creates conflict. Your brain isn't just looking for someone pleasant, it's looking for someone who fits a very specific psychological template, for better or worse. But there's another factor at play that might surprise you. Sometimes the reason you like someone is simply because you've seen them before. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. It's a well-documented phenomenon where simply being exposed to something repeatedly makes you like it more. This applies to songs, foods, advertisements, and yes, people. In one famous study, researchers found that the closer students lived to each other in a dorm, the more likely they were to become friends. 41% of students were friends with the person who lived next door. Less than 25% had a friend who lived a few doors down, and only 10% were friends with someone at the end of the hall. This is called the propinquity effect, and it applies to romantic attraction too. You're significantly more likely to develop feelings for someone you see regularly, a coworker, a classmate, someone at your gym, than for a stranger you passed once on the street. Your brain interprets familiarity as safety. When you've seen someone multiple times without anything bad happening, your brain starts to relax around them. That relaxation feels like comfort. Comfort starts to feel like connection, and connection can start to feel like attraction. This is partly why office romances are so common. It's not just proximity, it's repeated exposure, building a sense of familiarity that your brain interprets as compatibility. But the mere exposure effect has limits. Research shows the effect is strongest when you start with a neutral impression. If you initially dislike someone, seeing them more often actually makes you dislike them more. And the effect typically maxes out after about 10 to 20 exposures after that. More familiarity doesn't necessarily mean more attraction. So you've got brain chemistry creating obsession, genetics influencing who you find attractive through sight and smell, childhood patterns shaping who feels like home, and familiarity building comfort. Your brain is processing all of this simultaneously, often in direct conflict with what you consciously think you want. And this is where things get humbling. Researchers have tried to predict who will hit it off romantically by surveying people extensively about their preferences and deal breakers. In one study, prospective daters completed over 100 surveys describing themselves and what they wanted in a partner. Then they went to a speed dating event. The researchers couldn't predict who would click. All those stated preferences, tall, funny, ambitious, loves dogs, hates country music, didn't actually predict who felt that spark of attraction in person. The conscious mind's checklist turned out to be remarkably poor at predicting who the unconscious would choose. This is probably why dating apps can feel so frustrating. You're filtering based on criteria your conscious mind has decided are important, but your unconscious brain doesn't care about your filters. It's running its own ancient algorithm, looking for signals you can't even articulate. Research suggests visual appearance accounts for only about 30% of attraction. The rest is voice, personality, scent, body language, and perhaps most mysteriously, something scientists still can't fully quantify: that feeling of clicking with someone. Scientists call some of this self-essentialist reasoning. When you meet someone and discover you share an interest, say, you both love the same obscure band, your brain makes a leap. It assumes that if you match on this one thing, you must share some deeper essence. You start to believe this person truly gets you on a fundamental level. This can be both the spark that ignites attraction and a trap that leads you to overlook incompatibilities. Just because someone likes the same Netflix show doesn't mean they share your values or communication style. But your brain, hungry for connection, makes that leap anyway. So where does this leave you? If your conscious preferences don't predict attraction, if your unconscious is running the show, if childhood wounds are steering you towards certain people, do you have any control at all? The answer is more than you might think, but less than you'd like. Understanding how attraction works doesn't make you immune to it. You're still going to feel that dopamine rush when you see someone who triggers your neural circuitry. You're still going to be drawn to people who activate your attachment patterns. But awareness gives you something valuable: the ability to pause. When you understand that your obsessive thoughts are partly a serotonin issue, you might give yourself more compassion during the brutal early stages of a crush. When you recognize that someone feels like home because they echo your childhood wounds, you can ask yourself whether that feeling is leading you toward healing or repetition. When you notice you're attracted to someone you see often, you can question whether it's genuine compatibility or just the familiarity effect doing its thing. Your brain is running software that was written over millions of years of evolution. It's optimized for survival and reproduction in environments that no longer exist. It's influenced by childhood experiences you can't remember. It's processing sensory information you're not even consciously aware of. The person you develop a crush on isn't random, but they also aren't chosen by the part of you that thinks through problems rationally. Your crush is the result of an ancient, complex, largely unconscious process that considers genetic compatibility, psychological patterns, neurochemical states, and simple, repeated exposure, all synthesized in a feeling you experience as, I just really like them. Here's something worth knowing. The brain chemistry of attraction doesn't have to fade entirely. Researchers at Stony Brook University scanned the brains of couples who had been married for an average of 21 years. What they found was surprising. When these long-married partners looked at photos of their spouse, their brains showed the same dopamine-rich activity that researchers see in the newly in love. The intensity was still there, but there was a key difference. In the long-term couples, the anxiety-related brain regions that light up in new love were quiet. They had the reward without the obsession. It's possible, apparently, to maintain the spark while losing the chaos. Maybe the most useful thing you can take from all this is humility. Attraction isn't something you fully understand or control. It's not entirely logical. It doesn't always lead you to people who are good for you. It's a biological and psychological process that served your ancestors well enough to keep the species going. But it wasn't designed with your individual happiness in mind. So the next time you feel that spark with someone and your friends ask why them, you can tell them the truth. Your ventral tegmental area got activated, your dopamine spiked, your serotonin dropped, your MHC genes were dissimilar. They remind you just enough of your earliest attachment figures, and you've seen them enough times for familiarity to breed attraction. Or you can just shrug and say, you don't know. Because honestly, both answers are equally accurate. The mystery of who we love, and why, might be one of those questions where knowing the science doesn't fully solve the puzzle. Your brain picks your crush for reasons that made sense 100,000 years ago. Reasons rooted in your childhood. Reasons hidden in your DNA. You're the recipient of all this processing, but you're also more than just a puppet of your biology. What you do with the information matters. Who you choose to pursue, and who you choose to walk away from those decisions can be informed by understanding, even if the initial attraction isn't. Think about the last person you developed a crush on. Can you trace any of the patterns we've talked about? Were they familiar to you in some way? Did they remind you of anyone from your past? Was there something about their presence that felt safe, or exciting, or like a puzzle you needed to solve? Your brain is always picking. The question is whether you're paying attention to how.